Okay, good afternoon. We are so glad that you made time to be with us today for our fifth Let's Talk in 2020. We began these conversations with leaders within our mission-driven sector to help us understand what's going on, begin to get a bit of a taste of what's happening and have some questions and conversation. We do this thematically. Our first one was around K through 12 schools, and then we did one having to do with housing and the food system, and then we did one with workers. I will let you know we're continuing this program in 2021. You can find on our website our plans for January. We're going to be talking about substance use disorders with Angela Sullivan from the Alcohol and Drug Council. In February, we have Jan Lynch from Finger Lakes Independent Center talking about people with disabilities. And in March, we have Community Foundation board member and Tompkins County Health Commissioner and Mental Health Commissioner Frank Kruppa, who will be talking about mental health. But today, we are very excited that Mr. Travis Brooks, who's Deputy Director at the Greater Ithaca Activities Center and Director of My Brothers Keeper Ithaca, here to help us have a conversation and hear from his perspective about what's happening for community centers and neighborhoods, especially at a time when folks are being socially distancing and how do we fight issues of isolation. So Travis, the floor is yours. You'll talk for a little bit of time, 8 to 10 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up to questions you can put in the chat box. Welcome, Travis.
Hey, George, thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk as quickly as possible just so that we have more time for dialogue. I often find that makes things, the conversation better. It's tough times for the folks that we serve down here at GIAC in this community. Um, for our young people, for our senior citizens, folks aren't able to get out and be connected and be around each other, and that's difficult. Kids last year, for example, in high school lost their senior year. Those who went off to college this year, expecting this amazing experience, it was completely different. Our little people who struggle in school to begin with, some are in school, some are distance learning. They're not getting the proper help they need. They're not around their friends. They're not allowed to play sports. They're not allowed to do any of the things that are normal to them. And so I see depression issues. I see, isolation issues. We have young people who live in homes where they're being abused physically, mentally, sexually. School was an outlet, a job was an outlet, getting out the house, hanging out with their friends was an outlet, and they're stuck at home with their abusers in a time where the abusers are stuck at home more. Their issues and are elevated because of work and money and COVID.
I feel a little more hopeful. I mean, I feel hopeful in a lot of ways with Joe Biden and not Trump, but it's something we should all feel hopeful about.
So, those issues are even more exasperated in these times. It's funny, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and some of this stuff isn't new to folks of color and low income folks, right? Uncertainty isn't brand new.
Right.
So when we're hearing folks talk about, the difficulties they're having, for some of us, it's like, yeah, well, this is standard in our community. This is what life looks like. Welcome to it. So it's the dynamics are really interesting. I know having kids. Well, my son is 18, but just watching the changes in him, it's a little frightening because here's a kid who's pretty well put together, but he's struggling. The disconnect is crazy, and I can't imagine being his age during these times. Folks don't know what's going on with school. Yesterday morning, people got text messages, emails telling them that school is going to be closed, and then that school is going to be closed for the rest of this month until the holidays were over. So all of you who had raised kids, some single parents who both live in the same house, who work, now all of a sudden, what do you do for the rest of the month, right? The times are just really uncertain, and some folks are still unemployed or underemployed. We have a lot of teenagers who can't get jobs because people are underemployed and have taken their jobs. Some of those teenagers, that's the only source of income they have. Some of them contribute to the family's household. The range of issues is wide, and it's tough. There's really no end in sight. We're also having a conversation about the vaccines and the
Mhm.
fact that, certain populations, certain communities, they don't trust vaccines. Historically, they were given stuff to make them sick. And now you're saying, hey, look, take this vaccine. This can help you, keep you from getting sick. We've kind of heard that before. So there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of uncertainty amongst a difficult economic time, amongst dealing with the last 8 months of this massive social justice movement. Um, you know, the I, I just feel like it's wearing a lot of people down, because it's nonstop. And this last 8 months has been amazingly difficult from a lot of different fronts.
Mhm. Travis, as I think about the position you're in and the important role that GIAC plays in our community, are there demands and requests being placed on GIAC that are different or just more of the same? And also, what are you seeing as adaptive coping skills that people that are part of the GIAC family are expressing and sharing with one another? And as you begin to answer that, I want to encourage people to put your questions in the chat box, and Nancy and Amy and our staff will take a look and share with us when they'll show up. But in some ways it's more of the same, more of business as usual. In other ways, some of this is really different and people are responding differently. I'm wondering what you're seeing at GIAC and what you're experiencing there.
So we started having conversations back in early spring, maybe even March, April, about what we're going to do over the summertime and this upcoming school year as it related to COVID. And we knew we were going to have to change our model to our after school program. So I think one of the beautiful things about being here at this agency is we're always looking down the road at what's going to emerge, what's going to happen, what do we need to do so we could be prepared for it.
Uh-huh.
And so we did. We changed our model and we created an all-day program. So our kids could come here in the morning in isolated groups based on their age and grade, and have staff that could get them into their schoolwork via the computer, be there for them, help them ask questions, be a conduit for parents and teachers. And so we had, I think, 42 kids in September start an all-day program. And then when school opened up again, we had some kids leave and we had some kids stay. And then we created a typical after-school program where kids would get out of school and come here in the afternoon. And we knew that there was the possibility where they would cancel school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of had plans in place to say, okay, you were registered, you went back to school, now that school's closed, come back. So, we're always trying to figure out ways to stay ahead. The staff, I got to give our staff a lot of credit.
Uh-huh.
We have staff that are dealing with their own health issues that puts them at high risk, but they're willing to be here because they know how important it is for our kids. If you think about last year, low income, specifically kids of color, they stopped going to school in what, March?
Mm-hmm.
And they say the most difficult time for low income students of color is over the summer,
Right.
because they regress because they're not in school. So we had kids regress from March through September. So that's almost a whole school year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're right back in the same boat starting September. And who knows what the next few months is going to look like, because things are supposed to get worse for those kids. So we have staff who show up every morning and are willing to be here and put themselves at risk for the betterment of our kids and our community.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more folks that come in and try to apply for grants from our Robin Whittlesey Fund because they just don't have the money to cover their bills. In a down economy, it's harder to bring in money to help fund those requests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our senior program, I mean, it's one of the reasons why we do the senior program, is to get our seniors out and about and into the community and keep them connected. So I can't even imagine what that feels like now for some of our seniors who haven't seen each other now since March.
Mm-hmm.
every year we do our Harvest Fest where we feed 400 people in the community. It's a free dinner next door at BJM. We run through about 25, 28 turkeys and pans of mac and cheese and potatoes and everything. And to me, it's my favorite event, the idea of cooking and feeding the community. I really enjoy it. This year, we knew we had to do something because there was more of a need for people in food securities, but we couldn't put people together. So in 2 hours, we served 702 meals as people came up to GIAC, pulled up in front of the building, and picked them up, which was a little crazy at times. It was our first time doing it. So delivering 720 pre-order.
That's amazing.
Was pretty crazy, but you know, the staff knew it had to be done. And we have great help from the community. Wegmans donated 35 cooked turkeys. And, you know, we just made it happen. It was difficult afterwards. We, you know, we all sat down and, you know, just kind of talked about what we just pulled off. But there was some tense moments in the kitchen, in the delivery. But it's what we do. The community needed it, so we figured out how to make it happen.
Your flexibility and nimbleness and responsiveness is just incredible assets that GIAC brings, and your whole staff just models that all the time, and under a great degree of stress.
Yeah, it's so now we have a few other things we're trying to tackle and address. We have we kind of addressed the middle school and elementary school population the best we can. And now we're trying to figure out how to tackle our high school students. So because of the budget with the city, we weren't able to hire part-time staff.
Okay.
So all of our roster staff are working in our elementary program, which doesn't leave any staff to work with our high school population. And those young folks are struggling too. So, you know, we're kind of huddling up and trying to figure out how to address some of the needs for our teens as well.
It's really important.
It's challenging.
Travis, I have a question for you that someone has asked. What are the community supports GIAC has found helpful? What are other ways our community can support GIAC during the pandemic? Maybe explain a little bit more about the Robin Fund you mentioned.
So I'll give you an example this summer. You know, we had furloughed most of our staff, I think 18 of our 23 staff in April and maybe March, April. And we weren't going to do any summer programs. The money wasn't there. And we were looking down the road to figure out how to bring as many staff back as possible. The Lane Foundation and a few others said, wait. We need to get people out. We need to get people in the pools. It's a hot summer. What can we do to help? And there were several organizations and businesses that put together enough money for us to operate our pool this summer, right? And it didn't come off the GIAC budget at all. And then there were folks asking about teams. And, you know, every summer, and I don't know for how many years, at least the last almost 22 years I've been with the city, the Youth Bureau has done a tremendous job in putting teens to work during the summer through the MJP program. And they didn't have it this summer because they were under the same financial burdens as we were. And so somebody donated enough money for me to put 23 teenagers through a summer internship program, which at the end they got paid. Telling you, teens not being able to work is a massive problem in this community. So, I mean, the community hears about needs and hears about issues. And during that time, there were pockets of issues and problems and programs that needed support. We think about the community coming together to help Black Hands Universal and some of the work they've been doing up in West Village. And just because we have a very good community who tends to rise up in an hour of need. The Robin Whittlesey Fund it's a fund that allows people to get small grants for a variety of things, from car repairs to help defer eviction or security deposits, NYSEG. That's a big thing, is NYSEG bill. Whatever it is, when folks are kind of at their wits' end, we get referrals all the time from Catholic Charities. Folks bring in what their bill is, an explanation, and if we have money in a fund, we help them out. If we don't, we can't. And for years, it's been a big fund, not a big fund, but a big help to folks who are struggling and make $1 too much, $2 too much to qualify for other programs in the community. For us, it's not about your income, it's about your need. So you might be doing pretty well on paper. But you might have 2 kids in college and a mortgage that's about to go under, and somebody's saying, hey, unfortunately, you make $10,000 too much. And you're like, okay, I make decent money, but I have obligations that I can't just not satisfy. So for a lot of our community folks, that's an issue. We have a lot of working poor in this community who don't qualify for much of anything. You know, I get people who are like, oh, I would love to take the job, but it's 23 hours. I can only work 19 hours, or I lose $1,500 a month in my housing support, right? Well, I can't make up that $1,500 a month by offering you more hours because I have a budget I have to stand under. So there's folks that won't take the job, that are talented and skilled. So, you know, the Robin Fund really helps meet those needs.
And the Robin Fund, support for the Robin Fund comes from all of us individually in the community. And Carl Graham has just put in the chat box information about how to, if you're so moved, to make a contribution to the fund, because the need obviously always outpaces what's in that fund. So just so that people are aware of that, I wanted to thank Carl for sharing that information. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but another, just a broader general question about food insecurity. You talked about the incredible movable feast that you made happen for the harvest dinner. And you have other pre-pandemic food programs. I don't know how those have been affected or what you're seeing in terms of food and food insecurity issues from people that are connected to GIAC.
So we had to shift, right? So in our regular after school program, we serve snack and dinner. Our summer camp, we serve breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. Breakfast and lunch comes from the school district. So having kids here all day, we had to make sure they ate, right? Kids can't learn, kids can't focus if they're not eating. So we shifted from snack and dinner in our after school program to now providing breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. We get reimbursed for our lunches, our snacks and our dinners, but we don't get reimbursed for our other meals. So we've had to work through some agreements with some folks to help fund that. So the school district has always been a great partner with GIAC. They're actually one of our founding partners. Through December, they have been providing breakfast and lunch. Breakfast and snack for our kids. We're now doing lunch and dinner. So we lose a little bit of money on our reimbursement for lunch, but we can guarantee that if your child comes here, they'll be offered 4 opportunities to eat each day, which is big, especially knowing that some of them, when they go home, aren't going to be able to eat when they go home.
Very much
Over
so.
the summer, we participated with Cornell and offered I guess it was like a food bank here. People could pick up boxes of food 2 days a week. And I know it was very useful because people were pulling up every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. And we get a lot of phone calls and emails from folks about being able to pick up food and where can they get food.
Travis, we have another question that's come in kind of along those lines of community partnerships and who else GIAC is able to be working with. Is there a way regional farmers and our distribution partners can support the food needs of the community? That's a question that's also asked.
I know there are groups that specialize in this. It's not something that we specialize in here. But there are groups that's what they do. Laura, she used to work at CCE, Kaltman. I forgot, Perilla Kaltman, I forgot what she is now. But it's something that she had a task force that, and she used to bring people together to address those needs. I would say yes, there is those opportunities, and I think that happens a lot already. That is happening. Could it happen more? I'm not sure because I'm not directly involved in that. But there are organizations and folks who are experts in that.
Can you look into your crystal ball and see what you might be anticipating and planning for in the next 6 to 9 months, knowing that everything's up in the air and everything changes, and but the flexibility and nimbleness and adaptability and resilience of GIAC is just so powerful. What are you thinking about, come June 2021, or summer programming, or the next basketball? I can't remember the name of the gentleman of the basketball festival is named after, Gus Macker, right? Like, you couldn't do that this year.
We won't do it next year either.
You won't do it next year either. Okay, that's a huge loss.
No, for us, part of our responsibility to the community is to keep people safe, and that gathering you're talking several
Yes.
thousand people. So I don't think we'll be at a place this summer where we could pull that off. Our summer camp, we're hoping that we will be able to do a version of summer camp. I think one of the big things is we're trying to figure out what the new normal is going to look like, because
Right.
things are what the old normal was again. And so we're trying to anticipate what the new normal will look like, trying to stay on top of the vaccine rollout and how that plays out. Of course, we're going to have a brand new administration, and folks tend to think that things will look very different very soon here. And how serious the government is taking COVID. So, we want to get into our new normal and make it the best as possible for our kids. And one of the things we've struggled for years is the concept of, do we do as much as we can for as many kids? Or do we do as much as we can for a certain number of kids where you can actually change the lives of those kids? And I think you're going to be finding programs that are looking at doing as much as possible for a fewer number, just because of social distancing. And so I think the real question probably is, how are we going to support other groups that are emerging to be able to do similar work? Because if you have folks doing less for kids at a particular site, for obvious reasons, then how do you help create more sites? And so I think there's a great opportunity as community to really look at meeting the needs of folks where they are, rather than trying to have folks come to them. And the truth is, when GIAC and Southside, for example, say they talk about their community, they're really talking about the families and lives of people that use their center. They're not talking about the community in terms of people living next door anymore. We all know that our families have been pushed from downtown. And so it's not your immediate community. So when I say my neighborhood, I'm speaking about the lives of the folks. I'm not talking about the folks that live in proximity to GIAC. Our families just don't live near GIAC like that. So for us, it's how to support, I know for me as well, specifically, is how do I support some of these emerging programs so that we could do more throughout the community, versus trying to figure out how we can bring in, 100 more kids to GIAC. You can't, you have space issues. So
I appreciate your disposition toward collaboration and supporting emerging ways of meeting new needs, and trying to conceptualize of what we mean by community as people that are socially connected, whether they're proximal in their physical location or not. There's a sense of community and connectedness there, and I think GIAC is a great role model for how to do that in collaboration with other folks that understand that concept of community.
one of the big things for us is, we had bought the gym next door at Immaculate.
Yes.
And so the faster we raise our capital to complete that project and get it done, the faster we can take our middle school and high school program and move it next door, which creates about 30 spots for elementary school kids here at the current building.
Mhm.
So that's a big project. And for the first time in this community, in years, teens actually have their own place to go.
Mhm.
You know, for all of you who raise kids, work with kids, teens do not want to be around little kids. They want their own place. They want a place where they feel that's theirs and they belong. So that's a big project for us,
Right.
is to get that building under construction and get it finished so we can create more opportunities for placement for younger people.
So as we wrap up here, there are, just a caboodle number of ways to support the work of community centers like GIAC and to build neighborhoods and connections. I mean, GIAC alone, we've talked about the Robin Fund, we've talked about your capital campaign for the Immaculate Conception gym space. Folks may or may not know the Community Foundation is the beneficiary of a donor who's created an endowed fund for GIAC that annually makes a distribution to GIAC for food programming and tech kind of stuff. So I would encourage folks, as you think about the needs, as Travis has shared them with us, there are many, many ways for making sure that we are supporting the work of community centers who are building social connections during times of stress and social isolation. And I want to thank you for taking time today, Travis, to let us know a little bit more about that. This is the beginning conversation. We will have more. We have sessions set up. I think I mentioned at the beginning of this call, we have our next 3 set up, as you can see here on our website, for the January 12th, February 9th, and March 9th coming up. This session is being recorded. We'll add that to our archive so you can take a look at this. Reach out, talk to each other, continue the conversation. You've learned something new today, share that learning with someone else, and we'll get through this as we build the resources we need in our community. I want to express on behalf of the Community Foundation board and staff our best wishes to you all for a holiday season of rest and respite, rejuvenation, peace, that comes from building justice and wealth and prosperity in terms of sharing the benefit and bounty we all have, that everyone can have a quality of life for which we are all deserving, and as just the dignity of a human person. So I want to thank you very, very much, Travis, for helping once again connect with the Community Foundation. Travis is a long-term speaker at our events. He's been a grant review panelist. He's part of our COVID grant review team. We call him Travis a lot, and Travis always says yes. And I appreciate that very, very much about that partnership. I want to thank each one of you as well, and have a good, wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe tomorrow during the snowstorm, and go out and make a snow angel.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Bye all.
Travis.
Thank you.